I'd like to call to order the regular meeting of the Board of Education for Homewood School District 153 for March 21st, 2022. Roll call, please.
Ms. Marks,
Here?
Ms. Bethay, Mr. Bosch,
Here.
Ms. Habegorst,
Here.
Mr. Booth,
Here.
Mr. Zennerman,
Here.
Mr. Schmidt.
Here.
6 present.
Thank you. And like I mentioned, it's March 21st, so it's somebody's birthday today.
And there's
Birthday.
no place I'd rather be. Thank you.
We're just going to move on from there. We have approval of the minutes from the regular board meeting
So moved.
from February 14th. Thank you.
Sorry.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We have future dates.
Yes, we do. This is our final week before spring break, of course. So our kids, our staff, everyone is eagerly looking forward to next week. Students will be out from March 21st to April 1st, and then they will return to school on Monday, April 4th. And also, we are celebrating with our new staff. We haven't had an opportunity to do that the last couple of years. So this Thursday, Ms. Schaefline and Ms. Kerr and all the administrators will be inviting our new staff to Wiley's Grill, where we'll have some appetizers and see each other's face for the first time in a long time. So that will be a nice celebration for our new staff members.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
We have a presentation tonight. The RSM is going to present an overview of our fiscal year 21 audit.
Yeah, so I can, Dr. Gibson, if you'd like to introduce our auditor, and then Ms. Kirkman can give us the overview.
I'm at the mic. So Kelly Kirkman is from RSM, and she is our audit manager. This is her second year with us doing our audit, and she's going to present our FY21 audit.
Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thanks, John. So yeah, our second year of doing the audit, but the first year of actually being out here. So kind of nice to get back into it. Gosh, I know we probably don't want to hear too much about the June 30, 2021 audit. So just was planning on giving you a very brief overview since, gosh, only 2 months we'll be starting up the new audit pretty soon. So overall, the June 30 audit, we did start it back in August and September of 21. Really, everything was done on time. The audit didn't get issued until January, only because we were waiting on guidance from the federal government for all your ESSER funds. So ESSER funds were, all the COVID dollars that you received and spent, and so we just had to hold back the audit until all the guidance for those funds were in. And so that came in December. We issued the report in January. Overall, very clean audit. It was an unmodified opinion. That means it's a clean opinion, it's the best opinion you can get, and it's the same opinion that you've received in the prior year. I would say there were no control issues, so no material weaknesses, no significant deficiencies, no compliance issues with any of the federal funds. Overall, John and Jody and management are always very responsive. The audit would have been out a lot sooner if it wasn't for, things out of everyone's control. So overall, the second year was a smooth audit, and I anticipate the third year coming up to be just the same. So, great. Any questions? I'm happy to answer them, but I know they keep you up with all the financial information. So,
Any questions? We love hearing this news. It just confirms how much we trust the people that are in charge of our money,
yep,
in
exactly.
charge of watching every penny for us.
Exactly.
So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
All right. Is there anyone in the audience who's come to address the board on any items that are not on tonight's agenda? Are there any responses to questions from previous meetings?
There are none?
All righty. Report of board committees and meetings. Any board members have any reports?
Kelly, I'd like to make one for Shanti, who's unable to be here tonight. For the Educational Progress Committee meeting that was held last week, Alex, myself, and Shanti were present, with Kathy and Scott, and a couple different topics. The DEI, Diversity, Equity, Inclusion update. The steering committee and subcommittee members have been working in small groups focused on 4 main district-wide outcomes based on the staff and family survey results. These are the 4 outcomes. Develop and use an equity lens when determining policies, programs, practices, and decision-making to obtain more equitable outcomes. Recruit and retain a workforce that is, number 1, more representative of our student body. Number 2, diverse in race, ethnicity, gender, geographic origin, religion, age, sexual orientation, and physical or mental ability. The 3rd outcome, create an inclusive and equitable campus climate, including culturally responsive teaching and restorative practices. And the 4th, implement and support inclusive teaching and representation in the curriculum. There is a 3-year action plan for each outcome is being created in these small groups. The next topic was the ISBE curriculum audit. Kathy shared the following commendation. The ISC compliance team would like to recognize Dr. Scott McAllister, Superintendent of Homewood School District 153, and his staff for their assistance and hospitality during the compliance visit. They welcomed our team, provided vital information, and ensured that the visit was as seamless as possible. The compliance team would also like to thank Dr. McAllister and his leadership team for their organization of documents and willingness to assist us in any way. A special thank you goes out to Mary Kay Dunn, Kathy Schaeflein, Kevin Keene, Paul Klemzak, and the District 153 staff members for their assistance. Kathy also gave us an update on PLCs. Core teachers and administrators have been working with Jack Balderman from Solution Tree. They have focused on the goal of consistent learning targets for each subject and unit in order for a guaranteed and viable curriculum for all students. Kathy shared the ELA and math documents for the 2nd trimester. STAR data, fall to winter growth scores. As a district, students made greater than expected growth in both math and EL this year. This was the largest growth we have seen since using the STAR assessment. This is a nationally normed test that compares students with the same initial scores to similar students across the country. And then finally, the resource adoption and renewal updates of curriculum and resources. The 21-22 school year science program. We are in the final year of a 5-year contract. It does end this school year. Kathy Schaeflein is proposing that we extend this contract for 3 more years. Teachers overwhelmingly like both the mystery science and the STEM scopes of the science curriculum. So it was a good meeting, lengthy meeting, but very informative. Thanks, Kathy.
Any questions? Okay, any other board members have any reports? I want to mention, I had the nicest thing happen today. I was asked to be a guest lecturer at a class at Governor's State for all of the people. It's a requirement for all of the students in the Department of Education. And they asked me to speak on school finance and governance. With all due respect to John, I did warn them that the finance part was going to be really dry and not fun, but the rest of it would be interesting. So the really amazing thing was I was telling them about how schools are run and how school districts operate and school boards and on and on. And the professor said to the students, I watched one of their board meetings. And it was a board meeting where parents came to discuss masks. And everyone was so respectful and listened to each other. The board listened, the parents listened to each other. Everybody listened. This is the kind of district that you want to be looking to land in. And, well, you can imagine. I was just bursting with pride because they're right, but we don't always realize all of the things that we do that will help someone make a decision and bring them here. And it's not just us, it's the parents who care enough to come and talk to us when you have a concern, and you do it so respectfully. So I wanted to mention that because I was just overwhelmed with that comment. Okay, moving on. Superintendent's report.
Yeah, thank you, Shelley. And Mr. Schmidt mentioned our audit that the regional office completed this year. And I just wanted to thank our district office administrators who are all in the library with us this evening. Kevin Keene, Director of Operations and Maintenance. John Gibson, our Chief School Business Official. Melanie Mandy Sodza, our Director of Student Support Services. Kathy Schafline, Director of Curriculum Instruction and Assessment. And Nikki Kerr, who is in charge of our academic accountability. So we're really thrilled with the report we got back from ISC4, simply because it verifies and affirms everything that we know is happening here, that we're doing things as we're supposed to. And so to have the regional office give us that stamp of approval is really a testament to all the people whose names I just mentioned. So thank you for everything you do for us to keep us organized and on track. I also want to mention COVID. So the last 3 weeks, we have continued with our shield testing since we went to a mask recommended policy. And I know there was a little bit of trepidation amongst staff and community, understandably so, but our numbers have been outstanding since we went to our mask recommended policy. Over the last 3 weeks, we've tested roughly 1,600 students each week. We've tested about 120 staff members each week. And over that 3-week period, we have had 3 positive tests for students and 1 staff member. So a total of 4 positive tests in 3 weeks, which is really remarkable. If you look where we were just 2 months ago, right coming back from our winter vacation, when we had 85 positive tests in James Hart in 1 week, to only have 4 in 3 weeks is really, really great. And so the plan at this point, what I would like to do is we are going on spring break next week. And I know, again, there's some concern with people traveling, what's going to happen to those numbers, because the last 2 major vacations we've taken, Thanksgiving and winter break, we've returned and the numbers have been higher. So I don't want to change our existing mitigations outside of masks until we've been back for a week or 2 from spring break, so we can make sure that our numbers remain low. So the plan at this point would be on April 15th, which would be the 2nd week after we return, to review our shield numbers. And if everything is continuing with the great trends that we've seen so far, to explore some of the other mitigations that we currently still have in place to see which we might be able to remove to provide a little bit more flexibility, especially to our teachers, because they're still maintaining distancing in classrooms, which, as you might imagine, goes against everything that they've been taught as far as proper instruction, right? We want kids working together and collaborating, and simply haven't been able to do that for safety reasons. So we'll explore those once we, again, have been back from spring break for a couple of weeks. I also want to mention, congratulate our 8th grade girls volleyball team. They made it to the state finals, and many of these girls, of course, were in 6th grade when the pandemic started, and it's been a very unusual middle school experience for them. So for them to be able to finish their middle school career with a trip to the state finals was a lot of fun, and they represented our school and district very proudly. And again, I just want to reiterate the STAR scores that Mr. Schmidt mentioned that Kathy Schafline had shared during our committee meeting. I mean, our students have performed really, really well when looking at their fall benchmark test to the winter. And with everything going on this year and the high emphasis on safety and all the mitigations, it's easy to lose sight of the fact that we still exist as primarily an educational institution, right? And our staff, it is a huge testament to our teachers, to our assistants, to our building administrators for the work that they've done in the midst of this to focus first and foremost on learning. So to get results back that show that our kids are growing, again, as Mr. Schmidt said, growing faster than they've grown in the 5 years since we've been tracking that STAR data is really remarkable. And we're excited about that, and that's cause for celebration. So that's a great way to end superintendent report.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any questions for Dr. McAllister? All right. We have several consent agenda items tonight. The first is the personnel report.
Yes, you have the personnel report in your board packet. I do want to mention, this is always a bit of a sad moment for us when we announce retirements. As I met with each of these individuals, I tell them two things. A, we're really, really sad to lose you. B, I'm really, really happy for you, right? I mean, this is a testament to people who've been with us in many cases for decades. But several individuals announced their retirement over the next 2, 3, or 4 years. I'll just read their names quickly. I'm not going to go through the whole personnel report. But for individuals who are going to end their career with us, it really is a celebration of everything that they've done. Cindy Wright, an assistant at Churchill. Melissa Lawson, principal at Willow. Jeanette Nichols, teacher at Churchill. Renee Rycraft, teacher at James Hart. Ann Snedden, secretary at James Hart. Kathy Jones, teacher at Churchill. Lisa Rost, teacher at Willow. Ann Snow, teacher at Willow. And Patty Callahan, teacher at Churchill. So those individuals have added their names again to our retirement rolls over the next 2, 3, or 4 years. So congratulations to them. You can also see some of the other things. We're excited. Lauren Graham is going to be hired as a full-time teacher. Lauren is a great example of a 153 student who went to HF and is now returned as a student teacher. First, she was a student teacher in the fall, and then we hired her as a permanent substitute, and now we have offered her a contract as a full-time teacher for the fall. She will be an outstanding addition to our staff. And then there's a handful of leaves that you can read about as well.
Great, thank you. Any questions on the personnel report?
Not a question, but a comment. My son attends Churchill, and my other son attends Willow. And they were in the back as I picked them up today talking about substitutes. They both had substitutes today. And Braylon, the second grader, said he had the best substitute teacher ever, and it was Lauren Graham.
Nice.
Yeah, so that just kind of speaks volumes to who she is, and this decision just gets the stamp of approval from Braylon Booth. So.
That is
Thank
great
you.
news. Thank you.
Thank you. And we have some incredibly talented people who are going to be enjoying retirement. And when we hear these names, it's always with a deep breath, like, oh my gosh. But as Scott said, we really appreciate what they've done. And I know that their last few years with us are going to be every bit as good, and they'll show every bit as much dedication as they have all along. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they do in their final years here.
It's kind of a who's who list of some of our
It
district
really is.
teachers and,
Yeah.
you know, with our kids that have gone through and they've had them, and you're right, excited for them, but it's like, wow, I can't.
Sad for us.
Yeah, absolutely.
But we do
Great
need
teachers.
substitutes. So, I
They
mean,
can
I'm
always come
just,
back. They can always come back.
I'm just saying that if they're looking for something to do while they're retired, I'm sure we can find something. Okay, we have to authorize the chief school business official to pay the usual and customary bills for April 2022. Any questions? And we need to approve the consent agenda. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve the consent agenda items as presented in item 7A and 7B.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Bosch,
Yes.
Ms. Habegorst,
Yes.
Mr. Booth,
Yes.
Mr. Zennerman,
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt,
Yes.
Ms. Marks.
Yes.
6 ayes.
Motion carries. We have several action agenda items. The first is the second payment of February 2022 bills and the first payment of March 2022 bills. Are there any questions on the bills? Is there a motion to approve?
Moved upon the recommendation of the chief school business official that the Board of Education authorize the second payment of February 2022 bills and the first payment of March 2022 bills in an amount not to exceed $2,459,210.71.
Second?
Roll call, please.
Ms. Habegorst,
Yes.
Mr. Booth,
Yes.
Mr. Zennerman,
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt,
Yes.
Ms. Marks,
Yes.
Mr. Bosch.
Yes.
6 ayes.
Motion carries. The next item is the approval of the 2022-2023 school fees.
Yes, you have in your packets the school fees. The big change, not the big change, but the change that would be represented from previous years is related to our one-to-one policy and our device and insurance collection. One note that I wanted to share with you. So this is the first year, obviously pandemic driven, but the first year that we have had devices for every student that we have sent home, starting the year in grades 5 through 8. And then mid-year, we actually sent those home with 3rd and 4th graders as well. And basically what we do, we pay for those. There's a rental fee, essentially, that families pay. But we also have a fee for insurance purposes in case there's damages. And Beth White, our Director of Technology, shared that this year we have spent nearly $35,000 to repair devices that have been damaged, $35,000. Now, we are a self-insured, essentially, group. So we're paying for that repair and offsetting it slightly with the fees that we charge families for that. But bottom line, the district has incurred $28,000 in out-of-pocket expenses to replace these, to fix these devices. So what we're looking for is an additional fee to be added for the 3rd and 4th grade students to take those devices home, to pay, again, for the damages that do happen. And then also, for the first time, an additional fee, a first-time fee for K-12 to actually have a device, because they do have iPads. Each student is assigned an iPad, although they don't take that home, which is why we're not recommending an insurance fee for the Willow students, but the device fee of $25. There is a breakdown of each fee by grade level that you can see there, but basically the change would be an additional device and insurance fee for grades 3 and 4, and then a device fee for the Willow students.
Any questions? How do we educate families and students on the proper care of devices?
Yeah, I see Mr. Condon in the back, who's listening in on his earpiece. Mr. Condon, do you want to talk a little? I know you weren't planning on speaking, but since you're kind of a point person in terms of the devices and the damage that occurs, did you want to talk? Would you be able to come up to the microphone and just briefly? Nothing like being put on the spot. I mean, I could.
I'm on a 12-second delay. Where are we?
No, the question was, how do we educate our families in terms of proper care for the devices, like the types of things we do to prevent damage as much as possible?
To be completely honest, we haven't done a terrific job with that.
Okay.
We were thrown into this, and just these past 2 weeks, Brianna Grelecki, James Cassidy, and myself have been giving talks to the kids. It's about extensions and getting around watching videos in class instead of doing that, but it goes, a lot of them are saying, well, we don't know this. So essentially our 6th and 7th graders, this is their first time in the building due to pandemics. To be honest with you, we're playing catch up, and we are going to do a better job of that this summer. That's the plan. How we're going to do it is still in the works.
Okay.
That's fair.
There's plenty of options. There's going to be a couple videos. I know that they're planned and they're not done. And then there's going to be a form that the student should sign and the parents. How that finally looks, I don't know.
Yeah, and I do know one of the big things, like one of the things we've discovered in conversations with Jake and others is just the fact of bringing the chargers, for example.
Mm-hmm.
You know, trying to encourage kids, charge the device at home and then leave the charger at home. You know,
Well,
because
one thing we are doing with that, Doctor, is purchasing new cases that have a pouch on them. I think the idea is to maybe sell them as a pencil case, knowing that kids will still bring them.
Okay.
And at least they have a place for their chargers. We probably lose here at Hart at least 15 to 20 chargers a week.
Oh, wow. Is that, would you say that of the $35,000 in damages and repairs? How would you, what's the largest category? Is it the chargers? Or-
I think that's a separate category because that's
Okay.
its own fee, at least how I enter it. And so
Screens is a big one also, right?
Screens
Damaged
is number
screens.
one. Screens is one, and then the hinges. And that's just, you
Okay.
know, sometimes it's an accident, most times it's not.
Okay.
Yeah, and there's a big emphasis also, just, you know, right now, none of us have protective cases on our devices, but with kids, you know, just getting them back and forth, we do provide protective cases, but
In the-
sometimes
it-
kids remove them.
In
so-
the kids' defense, we
Yeah.
never got a chance to sit down and tell them all this. We just
Mm-hmm.
threw it at them. Here's your device, here's your charger. It was literally 700 kids here in August, so.
Yeah.
We, as a tech department, know we have to do better and plan to do better.
Okay.
Did you have a question, Mr. Schmidt?
No.
Oh.
Dr. McAllister answered it. So all the kids do get a protective sleeve?
Oh, no, they get a case, a zippered up
case?
case, yeah.
Okay.
But we're gonna get new ones. Because with Churchill, 3rd and 4th grade going home, all our backups we're down to seriously like 15. So,
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Condon.
Thanks.
Fabulous job. Yeah,
I don't know
absolutely.
how you guys accomplished what you accomplished this year. All righty. So any other questions? Is there a motion to approve the school fees for 2022, 2023?
Moved upon the recommendation of the chief school business official that the Board of Education approve the school fees for the 2022-2023 school year as attached.
Second?
Roll call, please.
Mr. Booth,
Yes.
Mr. Zinnerman,
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt,
Yes.
Ms. Marks,
Yes.
Mr. Bosch,
Yes.
Ms. Habergorst.
Yes.
6 ayes.
Motion carries. We have approval of fund transfer resolution.
Yes, this and the next one, that's our annual transfer of working cash funds into our education fund.
Great, thank you. Is there a motion for 8C?
Moved upon the recommendation of the chief school business official that the Board of Education approve the resolution for the transfer of funds from the working cash fund to the education fund in the amount of $1,500,000 as
Second.
attached.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Zinnerman,
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt,
Yes.
Ms. Marks,
Yes.
Mr. Bosch,
Yes.
Ms. Habergorst,
Yes.
Mr. Booth.
Yes.
6 ayes.
Motion carries. And we have a second resolution.
Same thing. This is 500,000. This gives us our annual allocation of $2 million.
8D. Is there a motion?
Moved upon the recommendation of the chief school business official that the Board of Education approve the resolution for the transfer of funds from the working cash fund to the operations and maintenance fund in the amount of $500,000 as attached.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Schmidt,
Yes.
Ms. Marks,
Yes.
Mr. Bosch,
Yes.
Ms. Habergorst,
Yes.
Mr. Booth,
Yes.
Mr. Zinnerman.
Yes.
6 ayes.
Motion carries. We have approval of a resolution providing for abatement of 2021 tax levy adjustment.
Yeah, Dr. Gibson, did you want to briefly explain to the board regarding the tax levy adjustment and the abatement thereof? Thank you. Lest people think school finance is lacking pizzazz. We're about to hear how exciting it can be.
Right. Jazz hand.
Yeah, let me follow. Yeah, I'll just talk and just do that.
Just John.
Yeah. So let me use my best voice. So with taxes, we find that sometimes we don't want them. Can you believe that? So this abatement resolution is giving taxes back to the taxpayers. The reason this is happening is that the state, not necessarily with the advice of school business officials and superintendents such as myself, the state elected to give what's called an additional tax levy that represents a refund back of taxes that were given back to businesses. Businesses filed appeals. They do that every year, and we fight them because they take away the money that really has already been given, and we have to give money back that really has already been spent on things. So the money that was being given to us by the state is actually reflecting money that we sent back to companies, but these dollars would be coming from our homeowners, our local taxpayers, the non-commercial property. So we felt it was more of a bait and switch, so to speak. And again, we didn't have any input into it, and most school districts are doing the same thing. It's $350,000, which we could certainly use as a school district, but because it's putting more of a burden we felt on our homeowners to the benefit of commercial properties, really, I don't think many of them living in Homewood necessarily, we felt that we would advise the board to vote to abate these taxes back to taxpayers.
Thank you.
Is that exciting or?
That
not
was
quite?
exciting.
Anytime a taxpayer gets some money back, that's good news.
Right.
That's good news. Thank you.
Any questions? All right. Is there a motion?
Moved upon the recommendation of the chief school business official that the Board of Education approve the resolution providing for abatement of 2021 levy adjustment for $351,636.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Schmidt,
Yes.
Ms. Marks,
Yes.
Mr. Bosch,
Yes.
Ms. Havergorst,
Yes.
Mr. Booth,
Yes.
Mr. Zinnerman.
Yes.
6 ayes.
Motion carries. We need to accept the proposal from Hygineering, Inc. for asbestos abatement.
Yes, so the work that we're doing this summer, again, when you have buildings that were built in the 50s and 60s, asbestos is a naturally occurring chemical that's often used in construction. So as they tear out old equipment, sometimes they discover asbestos, which of course is a carcinogen. So you have to hire a company to come in and make sure that it is disposed of safely. And so through Gilbane and White, our two contractors and architects, we're working with a company called Hygineering, who comes highly recommended to get that work done for us.
And I want to add something to this, because when we hear that there's asbestos in the old buildings and the schools, it sounds scary, but it is in the buildings in a way that it's encapsulated, right? Isn't that what it's called? It's encapsulated. So it isn't getting into the air. But when you start construction projects and you start digging it up, that's when it becomes dangerous. So as it is now, it's safe. When we start doing construction, it can become unsafe. And that's when we have to take these measures to keep our students and staff and guests in the building safe. Okay, any questions?
No, and just to mention that construction is summer of 2022, for safety reasons as well. So it's duly noted.
Is there a motion?
Moved upon the recommendation of the chief school business official that the board accept the proposal from Hygineering Incorporated for $29,762.42 for asbestos abatement at Churchill and Willow schools.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Marks,
Yes.
Mr. Bosch,
Yes.
Ms. Havergorst,
Yes.
Mr. Booth,
Yes.
Mr. Zinnerman,
Definitely.
Mr. Schmidt.
Yes.
6 ayes, motion carries. We need to award the bids for summer construction projects.
This is a big one. This is the moment we've all been waiting for. So for the last several months, Dr. Gibson and I have been meeting with the architects, the construction managers. Kevin Keene has been an integral part of those meetings as well. And so the construction projects went out to bid, and you can see in your board packets the companies whose bids were the lowest for the work, essentially. And we're excited. One thing I'll point out as I pull this up here, is that there is a nice combination of different companies represented. So in some cases, for some of the work, Company A was the low bidder. In another building, it might have been a different company. So our construction manager was really excited, for example, that we have one company doing the HVAC work at Churchill, another company doing it at Hart and Willow, just because it gives us a better opportunity, they feel, to actually get the work completed when you have it split amongst multiple contractors. So we're excited, again, that the bids came in on target, and so they're here for your approval.
Can you remind us, some of the things that they're replacing have been in our buildings for how long?
Well, let's put it this way. Dwight Eisenhower was president. Yeah, our buildings were built in the late 50s and into the 1960s. So, you know, you think of a mechanical system like a furnace or an air conditioner have been in place for literally 50 years. You would never have a furnace in your house for 50 years, but that's what some of our classrooms have. Boilers at Willow School, and I've joked with some of you before, they look like they were reclaimed from the Titanic wreckage. I mean, they are big old boilers. They still work, but there's much more efficient items out there. So we're excited to be able to replace what I would call not necessarily glamorous items, right? Nobody gets excited about a new Univent, but in terms of comfort and safety in classrooms for kids and teachers, I don't know that there's really a better way to spend money.
We've had many generations of students living with the same equipment, and it's time to have something new for a new generation. Any questions?
So we need to get it in the resolution. Yeah, okay.
Is there a motion to approve?
Moved upon the recommendation of the chief school business official that the board award the bids as follows. Chicago Heights Construction Company for general trades at Churchill, James Hart, and Willow for $1,034,275. Helm Mechanical for HVAC work at Churchill for $892,000. Quality Control Systems Incorporated for HVAC work at James Hart and Willow for $1,272,460. Interactive Building Solutions LLC for temperature controls, Churchill, James Hart, and Willow for $495,000. McWilliams Electric Company Incorporated for electrical at Churchill, James Hart, and Willow for $336,700 for a total bid base of $4,030,435.
Before we have a second on that resolution, I also want to point out in your board packets, there are 2 alternate bids that appear there as well, which we're also recommending for approval this evening. And that does not appear in the resolution that Mr. Bosch just read, but we do recommend that it be added. So those alternate bids, just so you're aware, $185,200 to McWilliams Electric Company. That is for an upgrade to the Churchill electric panel. Basically, with the addition that we're putting on, the building is already at its limit. The addition that's being added, the 2 classrooms, they really feel if we might be able to squeak by with existing electric power at Churchill. If we ever have any additional work, such as air conditioning, we are not going to be able to handle it. So the time to upgrade the electric is now. So that's what the $185,200 represents. And then alternate bid number 2, the Willow boiler and pump electric panel. That's not the actual items, but the electric panel, $5,000 also to McWilliams Electric Company. So the grand total on the alternate bids, $190,200. So we do recommend that be added
Don't
to
have
the
a
resolution.
second yet, so do you want to?
Yep, I'd like to amend my motion to add the alternate bids to McWilliams Electric Company. There's an alternate bid 1 for Churchill Electric Service and an alternate 2 for Willow boiler and pump electrical panel. The total of the 2 alternate bids are $190,200.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Bosch,
Yes.
Ms. Havegorst,
Yes.
Mr. Booth,
Yes.
Mr. Zinnerman,
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt,
Yes.
Ms. Marks.
Yes,
6 ayes.
motion carries. We have employment.
Yes, we have one item on the employment, if I can get back to that page. We are excited to hire a new head custodian at Willow School, who actually believe Kevin started today, correct? Very good, very good. So Rodney Carton will be joining us from Willow School. He has a lot of experience in the private sector, and we're thrilled. He'll be a nice addition to our family over at Willow.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any questions? Is there a motion?
Moved upon the recommendation of the administration that the Board of Education approve the employment of Rodney Carton, effective March 21st, 2022, upon the terms recommended by the superintendent, conditioned only upon receipt of a satisfactory criminal background report and upon receipt no later than March 31st, 2022, of evidence of proper legal qualifications for the position to be filled.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Havagorst,
Yes.
Mr. Booth,
Yes.
Mr. Zinnerman,
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt,
Yes.
Ms. Marks,
Yes.
Mr. Bosch.
Yes.
6 ayes.
Motion carries. Any discussion items tonight? Is there any written communication to the board?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Time for you to go celebrate.
Yeah, I think it's time to eat cake.
Is the camera still
Oh.
on?